Hi, I'm Sabrina Frey, and I am a professional bead mosaic artist. And I have been working with beads for a lot of years. And when I started, I wanted to make jewelry, but I did not enjoy making jewelry. So I am here for all of you non-jewelry making people, and also the jewelry making people who want to do something else with your beads. I've developed a lot of different techniques over the years to help you use up your beads so that you can buy more beads, because that's half the fun of this, isn't it? So I am going to be showing you how to create this mosaic. And these are mosaics because we are gluing everything down. This is a no sewing type of project. So you don't need to worry about stringing beads or threading beads, and it also goes a lot faster than you think. So this project is actually part of what's known as a create your own kit. And I developed this because so many people come to me and say, I have tons of beads of my own. And I get it. I too am a bead collector. I get beads from all over the world when I travel, and I can't pass up a good bead store. Who can? So you don't have to anymore, but you want a way to use up your existing beads in beautiful projects. So I have developed a create your own bead mosaic kit that is for all of you do-it-yourselfers that are creative and have your own beads available to create your own designs and make your own bead mosaics. Now, the great thing about the Create Your Own kit is that it comes with everything except the design and the beads. So what you're gonna get is your board. This is an MDF board, and it's important to use a solid board for these projects because you don't want any flex in your project. You don't want the bond between the beads to break ever. So using a solid board is really important. This is 1/8 inch MDF board. And then you're also going to get these art edge strips, and these are, we sell these on beadmosaic.com. And these wide ones are here to put on the outside edge of your product. They are going to allow you to keep the glue contained and also to frame your project. And I'll show you how that works later. And then you have another packet, which is really thin strips. You can see how skinny these are. And these are going to allow us to create a stained glass look. So what you see behind me, some of these kits right here are made using this exact technique. So we have several examples, and I do a lot of my work with these techniques. It gives it a type of stained glass look when you use the black ones. And then we also sell the glitter ones so that you can do something a little bit different. This Daisy Bee over here is using the silver glitter strips. Included in the kit, you're going to get a few types of paper. You're gonna get a piece of carbon paper. And yes, this is the old-fashioned kind of carbon paper, but it's going to allow you to transfer your image onto your board. Then you also get a piece of trace paper so that you could, if you have an existing design or picture that you want to use, you can trace it with that. And then there's the instruction sheet. And this has special instructions on the front that are the beginning part of creating your own kit, how to trace it on there, how to do what you need, and then the back is going to be kind of the continuation instructions as well. And this video is I'm going to walk you through how to do it. You're going to realize how incredibly easy it is and how much fun it is as well. The kit that you're going to get from Jewelry Television is also going to include this beautiful 8x10 frame. This has hooks on the top and the side so that you don't have to worry about which way your piece comes. So in order to get started with this, you are going to need some tools. And the toolkit, forgot. The kit also comes with the special glue. And this is a glue that I developed over the years. I call it Sabrina's Skinny Glue because it's very thin. It's kind of a runny type of glue, and it comes in its own dispenser. And this glue is the secret to my technique and to the speed that all of these pieces come together. Also the flexibility to allow you to use different types of beads in different shapes together. So you're also going to receive the toolkit, and it comes in a bag so you have everything together. And in this toolkit, you are going to get all the goodies that I use every day to make my bead mosaics. So first you're going to get non-magnetic tweezers. And these are needle nose tweezers, but they also are non-magnetic so that they don't stick to the tweezers. A lot of these beads have metals in them, and you don't want them to stick to your tweezers because then you're going to be getting mad at your tweezers, and you don't want to do that. It also has this is kind of a multi-tool. This is a bead scoop. It's metal, but you can use it to move your beads around if you want to. You can use it to scoop up beads. This is a great tool. This wax, what looks like a white pencil, this is actually a wax pencil, and this is fantastic for picking up beads. Now those are a little bit big, but I'll show you how to use this later. So the tip is made of wax so that you can pick up beads one at a time, which works really well for gemstones. When you have flat backs that are sitting down on the ground and they're harder to get with the tweezers, this works really well for that. This is your stylus. This is how you're going to trace the image with the carbon paper onto the board. And then you get sorting trays for your beads, these 3 little triangles. And then you also get your touch-up tray. And I will show you how to use this to do your touch-ups when we're all done with it. You also get a large scoop, so if you have big collections of beads, which I do, you're going to use this to scoop out the beads. And then one of the most important things is this X-Acto knife or this craft knife. It comes with, you want to make sure that you use this with sharp blades, so we give you 5 extra blades in the kit with the knife. So you're going to always have a sharp blade to work with. And it comes in the carrying case, so you can put everything together in one place. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Now the first tool that I'm going to need is this X-Acto knife and the stylus. So I'm going to put the other things away for now. And this technique that I'm going to teach you is just one of several techniques that I've developed over the years. And because this is a create your own scenario, I drew this design just a little while ago. I came up with something out of my head, so if it doesn't come out great, you know what it's like working on the fly. But what I did was I kind of went through my stash and I found some really neat accent beads that I thought might be kind of fun to utilize. And then I also looked at what seed beads I had in stock. And seed beads are something that we collect very easily. I don't know if you, had made jewelry with it or whatever, but I tended to gather seed beads because they're beautiful and they're fun. And so I grabbed a collection of seed beads that I had. Now I already pre-picked the colors and I've laid them out here kind of so that I know where they go. But any types of seed beads that you have, the smaller the seed bead when you use it, the more detail work you're going to be able to get out of it. You also can do this project with bugle beads, and I'll show you how we incorporate that. And you also want to incorporate some specialty fun stuff. Like I found these little flower beads, and I'm going to show you in a different color here, so that you can put in some details and make it a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to start with our board. And this is a standard 8x10 board that you can use in a frame. And here is my design. And what you want to make sure is that you leave a 1/4 inch gap around the outside edge so that you can frame it and it's not going to crush your beads. So I'm going to take this piece of carbon paper. I'm going to put it black side down. You want to make sure that the darker shiny side is what's down on your board. And then I'm going to take this design and line it up onto my board so you can cut this out if it makes it easier for you. I just kind of line it up like that. And then you're going to take your stylus tool. Doesn't matter which side you use, they're both almost the same. And I'm just going to trace my lines onto the board. You'll want to try to get the drawing right when it's on the paper so that you don't have to make corrections on the board. Not that you can't make corrections on the board, but it is easier to do it with an eraser and a pencil on your piece of paper. Now, if you don't get these lines exactly right, don't worry about it because you're going to cover them up. So Perfection is not important here. It's more do it, get it done, enjoy the experience. And this is where I'm going to put the gem that I got done. So that's the process of transferring the image to the board. Here's our board. And now we can go ahead and get started. So I'm going to put this aside. Now I didn't use the trace paper, but it's there if you need to use it yourself. So these things are called, this is called art edge. Now this is a very specific measured piece. So this is 2 millimeters thick. And the importance of that 2 millimeters is that a size 11 seed bead is 2 millimeters thick. So the great thing about this is you're going to use this for multiple purposes as your guide when you're leveling out your beads. But then it also gives a really clean transition for the frame so that you're not going to be able to see the frame. You're not going to be able to see this when you frame it. So it has a little bit of an overlay. You're just going to pull it and you're going to peel it. They peel off very easily. Now, one of the keys with this is you do not want to stretch this product. It will stretch if you want it to, but you want to try not to. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it down, and I would recommend you just lightly put one end down and then you can kind of tap it into place. Now, it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly on, but when you feel like it's good, then you can go ahead and press it down. Yes, it will hang off the end, and I'll show you what to do with that in a few minutes. But you've got 4 of these. You're going to use them all the way around. So you're going to place them right on the edge of the board. You're going to tap it down, kind of go to the end, a couple little taps in the middle. When it's right, then you can run your finger along it and keep it going. Now, when you have ends like this that are sticking out, you can go ahead and cut that piece with your knife. It cuts really easily. That's one thing about this product. Again, this is called Art Edge. It's very easy to cut, gives you a really clean look to it. And it's also flexible. So when it's thick like this, it doesn't bend very easily, but you'll see when we get to the thinner strips that it's gonna bend really easily. So I'm just running my finger along that. We're gonna press it down, and then I'm gonna cut the end off here. Now you can save these little strips if you want. If not, don't worry about it. You have plenty in your project packet, so you're not gonna have to worry about running out. And if you have some left over and you have a small project, you can use the leftovers for your other project. Okay, so now we have all 4 edges done, and we've kind of created a frame for it. Here's my leftover pieces. If you want to keep them, put them out of the way. So as you can see, this is framed. Now, little things like this, do you see this little white edge sticking out right here? That's okay. It's going to be covered with the frame. So don't feel like I can't do this because I'm not going to be perfect at it. That's absolutely fine. Your frame is going to sit right on top of this outside edge. So don't worry about the perfection of it. It's going to be covered anyway. Now we're going to focus on this part of the art edge. Now these strips are really, they're just magnificent. I think these are one of the most incredible things. When I started doing this, one of my goals, when I started this, I wanted to do stained glass. I didn't have the money, I didn't have the space. What I did have was a bunch of beads and a whole craft closet full of stuff because I'm a craft store junkie. I love craft stores. And so I was looking for product I wanted to do something that looked like stained glass. And I started using wire and beads because that's what I had left over. Well, in doing that, I realized very quickly that wire was not a super friendly product to work with when you're trying to glue it down to a surface. And so I went on a hunt, and I was determined to find a product that I could glue down. Self-adhesive was one thing I wanted, but I didn't think I was gonna find it. And that was small and round, that mimicked lead lines. And I tried using the liquid lead line products that you see out there. My hands were not steady enough for that. And every time I started going, I would get an air bubble go right onto my board, and it was very frustrating. So I went on a hunt and I found this product, but I found it in sheets. And this is made of acetate. It's a bipolymer acetate product. It comes in sheets. And for years, I was cutting it down myself into these little skinny strips. When we decided to start making the kits, I had to figure out a way to get it cut for you guys. And so I do have a manufacturer that will do this for me, very, very specific guidelines, but everyone is done correctly, and you don't have to worry about gluing little pieces down or anything. They come right off the paper and they're self-adhesive. When you peel it, try not to pull it, and when you stick it, don't pull it. The reason for that is, although it will pull and it will stretch, it will also bounce back and you'll end up with gaps in your project. So be really careful with that. But it's just a great, great product. And we sell this on beadmosaic.com in black. We sell it in white, which you can paint to do other colors. And we also sell it in glitter colors as well. So what I'm gonna do is, this is the piece that I am going to put right here. And this is kind of my starting piece. So I'm going to lay this right here, set it down, and just lay it right on top of that line that I drew. So I was telling you not to worry about if the line is exactly straight or not, because you're gonna cover it up. You're gonna take your X-Acto knife and just slice the end. Easy peasy. Now, with this project, and you can set this aside, I would like to glue this charm down so that I don't have to reposition it whenever I do this. So I'm going to use full strength glue. This is Aleene's Tacky Glue. This is a very common glue that you find on the market, and it's great because it dries completely clear and it doesn't react to other glues typically. So you want to be careful not to blend your types of glue. If you use a water-based glue, then stick with water-based glues. If you use if you use something like an E6000 or something that's like a super glue or anything like that, you're gonna need to wait a day for your embellishments to dry, because you don't want that other glue to react with my skinny glue. My skinny glue is a water-based, completely non-toxic glue, and you want to make sure that nothing's going to react together. So I'm just going to glue that down. And then some of the other things that I had planned for this project was to use these little flower things that I found laying around, these little beads, and I'm going to random, and I do a lot of things randomly. So don't get scared that things aren't planned, because this is about creating and about having fun when you're creating. So don't worry about, oh my gosh, it's not exactly measured. So I'm going to randomly put a few drops of glue in places, and I'm going to drop these fun little flower beads that I found laying around the studio. This is a great studio, by the way. Jewelry TV has got it going on, I'll tell you. So I'm going to pick this guy up and just stick it in the glue. And by the time we are ready to glue our other beads down with the other glue, they should be dry enough and not have to worry about them staying in place. So these guys are going one right here, plopping them down. You don't want to get too close to the lines because we're going to be covering those up with the black lines, as we mentioned before. But if you're going to do any embellishments, or you're going to do your background plain, so sometimes you want to just do the design. Say I wanted to just do this drawing part and I wanted to leave the white part blank. You can do that, but you want to plan that ahead of time so that it looks good and it looks finished. Oh, I ran out, so let me grab this little white guy here, and then, oh, I ran out, so luckily I have extras, right? I found the bag, and this is a great way to use up some of your random bead soup collections, right? Who doesn't have bead soup? If you don't have bead soup at home, I don't know, you're doing beads wrong. So that's my embellishments there. Oh, see, I'm sticking to myself. This is good stuff. For the longer pieces, I like to use the long strips and then maybe save some of the smaller ones for when I have to do the cut up pieces. So again, I'm gonna grab from the end, I'm gonna peel it up and out, and then I'm gonna turn this to make it a little easier. Now, you see how these two pieces intersect right here, and they're kind of at an angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly put that down. I'm going to cut this at an angle like that. And if you don't push too hard, you'll be fine. You won't have to cut through the board. Set that down and then push it along. And again, if I don't cover that line up exactly, no problem. When you get to the end, we're going to do a little slice. Now that's a little bitty tiny piece I may or may not use. Okay, grab the next one. Put this little guy away. This is a piece I can probably use. Now the kit comes with 18 strips on here, which is a lot. Now, if you need more than that, you're gonna need to buy extras, but that's a lot of strips. I don't tend to use quite that many, because then it kind of takes over the whole design. But you should have plenty for at least your one project, and you might even have leftovers enough to do a second project. If you decide you want to do a second project, you already have the tools because you've got the toolkit, that's amazing. And then you can also buy project bundles that we sell on beadmosaic.com that come in different sizes so that you can expand yourself. And the project bundles come with the glue, they come with more strips, they come with the boards of whatever size it is you're looking for, and they'll get you all ready to go. The only thing you need is beads, and I encourage you to support whoever your bead supplier is. You know, local economies are great. Keep it. Oh, there I went. Dominoes. See? Probably not good to keep your beads right next to you, but luckily they're still in cases. Hee hee. All right. So I put the long strings in first, and one of the reasons I did that is because it's easier to place long strings. Now I'm going to have to put the short strings in. So I'm going to rotate this and see where I can utilize my little strips that I already pre-cut. There we go. One down. Now, I enjoy this part. The whole thing about bead mosaics to me is that it's very meditative. You kind of get really engrossed in what you're doing, and it's easy to focus and kind of let the world disappear. So enjoy and embrace the process. I used to be a professor of architecture, actually, and I used to tell my students, embrace the process. And they didn't like me very much when I said that. But, you know, part of design and creation and being an artist is not the finished piece. That's the result. But it's embracing the process. It's learning to love the process. And I am by nature not a super patient person. But I found that this is the type of project that I can really get into and just focus all my energies, and it's kind of a calming thing to do if you don't put too much pressure on yourself to get it exactly right or to be the perfect artist the perfect time. No, just do what you need to do and have fun doing it. There we go. If you ever need to pull it up because it goes down wrong, you can do that. It will tend to stretch a little when you pull it up though, so be careful with that. If you have to pull it up, then give it a little time to stretch back, to shrink back to where it needs to go. All right, we're gonna keep going here. And I honestly don't know what this design is. I was just thinking about what I should create, and it came to me to kind of, and maybe because I don't know what time of year it is, but I love color, and I also love to challenge myself to do things I'm not comfortable with. Most of my art is nature-based. I do a lot of trees, I do animals, so instead of being like the dog whisperer, I'm more like the bead whisperer. I can kind of make them do whatever I want them to do. But my main focus is nature because I love nature. And I love that beads are so versatile that I can turn them and create anything I want with them. So if you ever want to look at my professional artwork, you can go to sabrinafreyart.com. and you'll see the work that I have available. You can also go to my YouTube channel, which is Bead Mosaic, and there's videos on how I create all of these things. So once you get done with this kit and you have the bug to make more, you can learn other techniques on my YouTube channel and get started making other bead mosaics and using different types of beads. So, you know, I love sharing my techniques. As I mentioned, I used to be a professor, and education for me is just, you know, if you learn something, you want to pass it on. You want to teach other people how to do it. I love seeing what people are going to create. And I started a Facebook group several years ago that is also called Bead Mosaic. So I'm pretty easy to find. If you look for Bead Mosaic and Sabrina, you'll find me on the internet. But the group is wonderful because all these people are just using beads in ways that I could not have ever imagined. And I have watched people grow over the years. Most of them started with a kit to try it out, to see what they liked about it or didn't like about it. And then they grew from there. And it's been an incredible experience to see that. We also run competitions, and so you'll see on the beadmosaic.com website, we're going to have, if you look, you'll be able to see the results of those competitions and what some of the winners are and some of the work that they created. And so if you join the group, you know, you're welcome to join us and kind of be an outsider if you want, or you can join us and participate and post your work, and we love that too. So I am pretty much done laying the lines. Now you see that I have quite a bit of this stuff left. I've got enough to be able to make another project. And I encourage you to do that. You know, start with this one and then go on to your next one. So here we have our little flowers are in here, and we've got our gem in here, and then this is what we have going on now. And I'm gonna put some of these little guys away to get them out of my way. Now I found this little dragonfly in the stash, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but we're gonna see where we can fit him in because he's a lot of fun. And these are the kinds of treasures that you buy at a bead store because you just love them and they're very special, but you sometimes don't know what to do with them, and bead mosaics is a really good way to figure that out. So we're gonna add this little detail at the end somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and pick off these little nubs that I left on there. And if you notice, there's very little waste. I'm one of those, I waste nothing. When I do my own work, I do a lot of it on repurposed materials. So I love to repurpose things. I'll go to the Restore and buy old picture frames. I'll use old cabinet doors. I use reclaimed wood, and I give it new life and beat it up and make it beautiful. So once you get started and you kind of find your voice with that, then go ahead and do that. I encourage you to do that. So we are going to now kind of figure out where all these beads are going to go. Now I pre-selected them a little bit anyway, and we're going to start with the blues. So I have blues here. Now, one thing you're going to notice about bead mosaics is that we use a lot more beads than you do in jewelry. So the quantities that you have, you may think that you have a lot of beads in these little containers that you'll get, and there are a lot in there. But you'll notice they go very, very quickly with this because you're covering a really good amount of space. Now, a size 11 seed bead, you'll put 156 size 11 seed beads per square inch. That adds up very quickly. So most of my work uses, tens of hundreds of thousands of beads in it. But no worries, we're gonna get your bead collection all, fixed up, and then you'll be able to buy more. Yay! That's the best part. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of reconstruct what I had started with here. And I'm also going to show you how to embellish if you don't have enough beads, how you can mix different beads together so that you can have enough beads. Sometimes it's very frustrating to get going, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough. What am I going to do? And you can't find the right shade at the store, and there's all kinds of frustrations that go with that. But I am going to help you through that as well. And let me see, I think we were going to go pastels on this side of it. Yeah. So again, I'm improvising this project. We are going to see where it goes in the end. This white is going to be for the background, and these are going to be my colors over here. So now that I kind of know where they go, I'm going to start putting them on. Now, here is the kicker with this project. So the technique that I developed works the opposite of the way you think it should. Now, logic tells you put glue down and put beads in glue. That's how I started, and logic told me very quickly that that technique doesn't work, which is why I think that bead mosaics didn't take off for a very long time. Because if you put glue down first, you are fighting the glue, and the glue is taking control. It's drying, so you're working against the clock. It's sticky, so it's going to stick to everything, and everything's going to get sticky. So I had to figure out a way to make the beads work for me. And that was when I started developing my glue. And I shopped everywhere, believe me. I went to the craft stores and I bought every brand, every type of glue that I could find. It became a personal mission, all right? It's very similar to the way I did the black lines. I was on a mission and I would prevail. I was going to find a way to use the glue to my advantage. And I figured out, not quickly, this was a 2 to almost 3 year experimental process, that I needed to reverse the process, that I needed to take control of the beads and get the glue to work for me. And that's when I came up with my skinny glue mixture. And you're gonna get the skinny glue in a squeeze bottle, just like this. And it does have, I'm gonna open this because I did put a protective layer of saran wrap on there for you. Very easy to undo. But this is pre-mixed. All you need to do is shake it up and use it. But this is last. So we are not using this. Put this away. Don't be tempted to put it down first. Put it away, hide it from yourself if you need to, but this is going to go on last. I'm gonna put it aside. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna start by putting the beads down first. They're gonna go down dry. And when you see some of my other works, and I don't really have any here with, well, in a little bit. So on this, I'm gonna pull this down and put it in front of the camera for you to see. So when you look here, this is a transition from silver to white and yellow to silver to white on here, but you need time to do that. You can't just put glue down and expect it to look like you're transitioning anything. See the orange and the transition with the yellow? When you look on my works, I do a lot of color transition. And in order to do that successfully, you need time. You need time to blend the beads. Sometimes they're not right. Sometimes you have to pick them out and replace them with something else. But that's why the glue needs to come last. And my glue takes care of all those challenges. No, the beads won't move around. No, they won't float away. That reminds me, I only use glass beads in my mosaics. Now, if you want to use natural stones, that's great. You can use wood beads if you glue them down first with solid glue, kind of like we did here with these little accents. But when you're using this technique, which is kind of the reverse adhesive technique, we call it the wrap technique, you're gonna want to use glass beads. And the advantage with glass beads is that they are heavy. So they are actually heavier than the glue, so they don't move around. If you use plastic beads, they will rise up and move around because they are lighter and the weight is different. Also, plastic beads tend to fade over time, and they can also react to glues depending on the dyes and the things that are in them. So I encourage you to shy away from plastic beads for these types of projects and stick with natural stones or glass beads only. Now, it doesn't matter if your beads are transparent, if they're translucent, if they're opaque beads. I mean, there are so many different kinds of beads out there. I love it because there is a never-ending supply of fabulous beads in the world. And hopefully that will not change. So I'm gonna use a variety of them here. I'm gonna use some opaque, some silver lined, some translucent, some rainbow beads, and we're just gonna make them all work together. Another beautiful aspect of bead mosaics is that you are able to mix different sizes and shapes and styles together. Traditional jewelry making does not allow you to do that. And that was a frustration of mine because I bought all these different kinds of beads and I was like, well, I want to use them all together. Why can't I put this size bead with that size bead? And when I started this, I didn't have a lot of money. You know, we were living in an apartment at the time. I had 2 kids at home. I had 2 dogs at home. Stained glass was not really an option. It was a very expensive option, and I wasn't able to cut glass. So using the beads instead of stained glass, yay, gives me the flexibility to mix different beads together, but I also don't have to cut anything. Yay, no cutting. We like no cutting. So anyway, I'm going to pour these into my containers. It's very difficult to use them out of the tubes, so you're going to want to use your little bead trays here. Set that aside so you don't knock it over like I did earlier because it doesn't have a cap on it. This little scooper, great tool. You're just going to scoop it out and you're going to pour these into place. And then you are going to tap them down with your fingers. And remember I told you how the thickness of this art edge product is the same thickness as a size 11 bead. Well, this is where that comes in handy because you're just going to use the art edge as your guide for the thickness. Now I know that you know, it gets kind of a little, sometimes you end up with a few extras. Just slide them off into the other area. Super easy. You want to make sure that you pat them down to one level. Do a little pat, pat, pat. Not really heavy, and pat them down to one level. And then I'm going to give you the greatest pickup tool for beads ever. Lick and stick. Boom. Was that easy? That's the best tool you'll ever own, is the lick and stick. Lick the tip of your finger, touch the beads, it picks them all up. Way better than trying to pick them up one at a time. I love my tweezers, but nothing beats the lick and stick. Okay. so there's that one. And the great thing about these little triangles, they pour right back into your container. Done. This guy's out of the way. All right. Then we're going to get these guys. Now, these were 2 different colors that I pulled from an assortment. This is a great thing. You can get these assortments of beads all over the place. And they're great because it gives you a great starting place. So I'm going to put these in here, but I have a pretty big area that I'm working with. And so I am going to supplement the beads that I need. They're pretty similar in color. These are a transparent royal blue color. So I'm going to put these in here. I feel like I'm on a cooking show, right? This is my bead recipe. And oh, surprise, look at that, snap. I have enough, I have enough. I didn't think I would have enough, but it looks like I do. So what I'm gonna do, again, tap, 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 get them in the little nooks and crannies over here. Now, if you're not comfortable with doing the whole piece at one time or you have limited time, I encourage you to do it in stages. Maybe just do the blue today and then do the rest tomorrow, because, and I do that. I don't work on one piece all the way through. 1, I'm too impatient for that. But 2, there's also too much room for things to happen. And I always say that that's when karma kicks in. You know, the cat walks by and knocks it over, or the dog's tail bumps into it, or something happens. So I encourage you to do one section at a time. The thing with the one downfall with my skinny glue is it takes 24 hours to dry. So if you want to work on this for a couple hours, put it aside till tomorrow. That's great, you can come back to it. So again, here's my lick and stick method. I'm just going to pick these babies up. And if you want to put this puppy, this little guy right in that hole, there you go. All done. All right. Put this guy back in here. Okay. Next, blue. This one, actually, I'm going to do this one because it's a little bit lighter. Now, this is a silver lined bead. And it's the same royal blue, but it has silver in it. And that's gonna make it appear lighter. Now this is a different size bead, but that's okay. Doesn't really matter. Again, like I said, you can mix and match beads together. In these little bitty corners like this, you can just use your tweezers to kind of stick one in there. Now, people ask me all the time, does it matter if the holes are up or down? Personally, that's a personal preference, okay? I'm a kind of, how do you want to say it? I'm a right brain. I like things, I like color, I like chaos, I like a little craziness. Some people are more left brain, and some people like organization, they like things to be the same. It's up to you, you decide. If you want holes up, go all holes up. If you want holes down or holes piggly wiggly, however you want, you do it. You do it. That's completely up to you. That's the great thing about this, is that you are not tied to any one thing. So I'm going to keep going. You can see as we do details that this is going to go different colors. And again, I'm just using what I have here. I'm not, you know, you can use whatever you have in your stash and then go out to the store and supplement with more. But I like to do different directions with my beads. And one of the great things I think about using different directions is that beads have different personalities. And you don't want to camouflage their personality. So for me, a lot of the traditional beading methods of the past were very controlling. The beads were always lined up like little soldiers. And in doing that, you kind of take the personality away because they don't get to shine in their own light. With my technique, you're letting these beads shine. And when you look at the pieces behind me, when they're in natural sunlight, they sparkle. And I have people at the art shows that I do that come up to me from the other side of the show and they'll say, what is all this glitter that I'm looking at? I'm like, this is not glitter, this is just beads. Beads in their natural state, beads that are allowed to do what they want to do and sparkle the way they're meant to shine. So, you know, don't worry about that. You know, if you want to try some that have the beads in different directions and see if you like it, then try it. Don't worry about failing. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece the first time. I can tell you that my first few years and few hundred pieces that I did were not worthy of anything, except that maybe my niece got a lot of them, my family members got a lot of them. But I was not a born artist. I did not start doing this and miraculously become this incredible artist. This was a lot of years, a lot of hard work, and a lot of experimentation, a lot of learning for me. So, you know, take the time to do that. Take the time to enjoy yourself and have fun with it. Okay, so we have the blue done. We're going to continue going. And I don't think I'm going to need that one, so I'm just going to keep going with this. This table is a little bit crooked, so I'm having a few little issues, but this wax pencil I talked to you guys about it earlier. When you need to just pick up that one bead, drop it into place. It doesn't replace tweezers, but it sure makes it easier sometimes to just pick up that one bead and drop it into place. So the tweezers or the wax pickup pencil will be your best friends. Okay. Now, if you notice when I just dumped those in there, beads like to bounce. They're a little round, they're glass, they have a little give to them, and this is a hard surface, so they like to bounce. That's one reason I don't usually drop them directly into place, because I don't want them bouncing around. I would much rather use my scooper to scoop them into place. Okay. Now, if you are not going for the stained glass look, and the black lines are something that you're kind of like, I don't know about that, you can replace the black lines. I told you about the art edge that comes in different colors, and it also comes in glitter, but you could also replace that with beads on hanks, and or strung beads, if you don't know what beads on hanks are. But beads on hanks are basically beads that are pre-strung, and a lot of the bead stores sell them that way. So you can replace the lines. You can put a full strength line of glue down and then lay those beads in place and use bead lines instead of these. These are great for learning though, and kind of getting the technique down, and then you can kind of replace them with those other types of materials. You can also, I know some artists that they are able to work with the wire more successfully than I was able to do it. I think I was too impatient for the wire. Like I said, I am not by nature a very patient person. So the wire, and maybe I was using the wrong kind of wire, but there's a lot of different kinds of stuff out there. But I used what I had at the time, which was, wire that I made jewelry with, and it's just not the right thing, but that's okay. So we're gonna pick these little guys up here. Lick and stick, so much easier. All right. Now, these are bugle beads. And bugle beads I use a lot to make my animals with. Now, I'm not doing any animals here, but I do a lot of animals, and I find that bugle beads work great for borders as well. So if you want to replace these black lines with bugle beads, it's a great alternative. But I'm gonna lay these guys in here because it's gonna give it a different type of look to it. And these will work with the same gluing technique that I'm doing the others. Or if you're doing them in a more specific lineup, then I encourage you to glue them down with full strength glue first. But there's that. And here I decided to use the bugle beads. One, I didn't have another shade of light green, but I also kind of like these little skinny spots to use something different. So now we're gonna go into the reds. Where's my scooper? Oh, it's right here. right here, I don't want to make this red exactly the same as the other red, but I also don't have a darker red to put there. So I am embellishing and making it a little bit different by adding these really hot pink beads. And what that does is it's going to trick the eye to thinking it's a different color because you're mixing these beads together. And so I do that a lot of times when I want to create a different effect. I find that adding different colors together will change the color of a bead. So if you find that you just don't have enough beads like I did there, okay, I was trying to go darker, and I needed this to be a little darker, so I put in that hot pink. You can do it with purple or something like that, and it's gonna give you that different effect. And then our last little kind of bright area. And the fun thing about this project that I'm doing here is this is almost a sampler of all the different kinds of beads that are out there. So if you look, I'm working with opaque beads, and over here we have silver lined. These are rainbow. Then we have the bugles, which are also rainbow. So it's very fun to be able to see the difference. Now, I don't know where this little guy came. I think he was trying to escape from there, so we're gonna put him back in there. To see all the different types of beads you can get yourself into. I mean, just amazing. I recently took a trip to the Czech Republic to the factories where they make the beads. I needed to see it. I needed to know, I needed to understand. And the Czech Republic is a beautiful, incredible country full of rich history of bead and jewelry making. So I took a 2-week trip and went all over the Czech Republic and just discovered all of these incredible beads and how they're made. And really just, it was just an incredible experience. If you ever get the chance to do it, I encourage you to do it. One of my favorite experiences I had when I was there was that I wanted to swim in beads, okay? Remember Scrooge McDuck with his money, his vault of beads that he got to swim in? Well, I wanted the experience with beads. Now, lo and behold, beads are not as flexible as you might think. So I did find a vat of beads that they had. It was kind of a big bathtub full of beads, and they let me sit in the bathtub, and then my girlfriends poured beads on me. And it was such a fun experience. It's as close as I get to swimming in beads. But it was great. And the, just again, the whole experience with learning how they produce these little guys, I have such a great respect for a seed bead. And, there are different types of seed beads out there. Now, we all know that certain projects require certain types of beads. So when you're working with jewelry, there's a lot of precision involved. And that requires that the beads be uniform in shape and size. And if you don't have uniformity, then things get screwed up. And that's kind of what drove me away from making jewelry, was that, you get done with this project and then you realize that the bead 10 rows back wasn't perfect, and now you have to take the whole thing apart. I was like, no. This, you're telling me I just wasted all this time? So that was not a good scenario for me in my impatient self. And so I kind of, with this technique, I embrace the fact that they're not uniform. I have great respect for the Mayukis and the Delicas of the world that are uniformed beads, and I do use them in my projects, but I use them when there's a specific reason for it, because even though you may not try, they tend to fall into pattern because they're so perfect. And so I will use them, and but the imperfect beads, the ones that you couldn't use for jewelry, those are the ones that I embrace, that I love. So your seed beads that are check-made, that are made in China, these are the kinds of beads that work best with bead mosaics because they're not perfect, because they have a reflective value, because they work in different directions. Those are the ones that I love to use for my work. I find that the more imperfect, the more perfect they look. So don't worry if you don't have the right kind of bead, because with this type of project, that doesn't matter. And that's the beauty of it. And if you're not one of those super precision people, don't worry about it. It's okay. Just let them do their thing. Let them have their personality and do their thing. That's what I do with mine. I let them be who they are. You know, we all kind of need to just be. Let me see if I have. All right, I'm not seeing that. So we're gonna just embellish here a little bit. Now I have this little bitty space right here, and I'm gonna drop these little guys in here, and then I'll use my tweezers to kind of maneuver into a different spot here like that. There we go. I tend to not use my fingers too much when putting beads down because they're bigger than you think, which I know sounds kind of weird, but you know, I don't have light, delicate fingers. I have fingers like normal fingers, and so you know, I use the tweezers for that. So now we've got this beautiful rainbow of color, right? It's not a specific rainbow, but we're using what we have, and we're learning, right? That's the goal. So now that we have those colors done, we're gonna go with some fun, happy colors here. Now, if you notice, remember I talked earlier about the lines and not worrying about if you cover them up. So you're gonna notice there's a little bit of line right here that's sticking out. That's okay, because I'm gonna cover that baby up with beads, and it's not gonna matter. So we're gonna cover this up. Now, if you use transparent beads, sometimes those lines can show, so be careful with that. But for the most part, you don't have to worry about it, especially if it's on the very edge. You don't have to worry about it. Also, when you watch the my YouTube channel, you will see that I sometimes use paint behind the beads to embellish. And that was something that I started out of necessity because I needed a certain color and I had a shade too light or a shade too dark because, you know, you just need that exact color. And that was when I didn't have, I hate to say, over 500 shades of size 11 seed beads in my collection. That was when I was working with my 25, and you know, that's a lot, but that was what I had. So I needed just a little bit lighter or a little bit darker. And so what I would do is I would paint the background and enhance the darkness of the bead. So when you watch my videos for some other projects and some other techniques, you're gonna see how I do that. It's a great tool. Again, here, you wanna make sure that all of this is one layer. And be careful of your sleeves. So this little guy is trying to escape because the sleeve caught him, and there he goes. So that's another reason I encourage you not to try to do this whole project at one time, because things like that happen. But we're gonna finish this project today, or at least the majority of this project we're gonna finish today. So here we go. Drop these little guys in here. There we are. Get a few little strays over here. Now, if the unimaginable happens, like, oh my gosh, you spilled the whole thing of beads, you can put a nylon, like a knee highs or a piece of your pantyhose, over the end of your vacuum cleaner and suck it up, and it'll hold it for you, and there you go. You saved all your beads. So it happens. Doesn't happen to me very often anymore. It used to happen. It used to happen a lot more often. I also now put, you know, I think I might want to change. No, I'm going to go with this one. No, I'm going to change it to this guy instead. Oh, here we go. Yeah, that's the one I want. That other color was just not the right finish. Luckily, I have quite a few of these beads. These larger tubes are great. They're not sold everywhere. They're a little harder to find. They tend to sell them in the smaller tubes, which I graduated from pretty quickly, realizing the quantities of beads that I was using. But there's some, I know that they have them on Jewelry Television, so you can get them from there. There's a little itty bitty hole here. We're just gonna fill this baby in. Okay, now we're almost done. Look at this. This is so fun. I love this. I never know what I'm gonna do. Never know what's gonna come out. So we're just gonna kind of keep going with it. The light pink, I'm gonna put that in here. There we go. And this is just an itty bitty amount, so I'm gonna do this. So my collection over the years, as you can imagine, has grown. And now I do this professionally. I am a professional bead mosaic artist, and I do show my work all over the country. It's in galleries all over the country, and you can find out where those galleries are on my website, sabrinafreyart.com, under the Find Me section. It shows you where the galleries are. You can also buy my products online, or my original artwork online. So I have a pretty insane collection of beads, but you really don't have to have a ton of beads to start this. You know, I started this, like I said, in an apartment with a few colors, because you always buy more beads than you need for whatever the project is. And I realized very quickly that jewelry was not my thing. And I didn't know what my thing was. I was a teacher. I was teaching interior architecture at the time, University of North Carolina, and I needed stress relief from my students. That's the honest truth. And so I started creating, and I loved working with the beads, but I also loved that there was no competition. There were no YouTube videos out there on this kind of stuff. There still aren't very many. I'm one of the few. There are other bead mosaic artists, but it took me years to find them. There aren't very many of us. And I do have a lot of them highlighted on the Bead Mosaic website so that you can look at other styles and techniques out there by other professional bead mosaic artists. But I didn't have anyone to compare myself to, and I had done some painting and things like that, but then you look and you're like, oh, well, mine's never going to be as good as that. And you're comparing yourself to Monet, which is just crazy. So don't do that. And don't compare yourself to me, because I've been doing this for 12 years. Just do the work that you love. If you need to start with a kit to inspire you and get you started, then start with a kit. That's what they're for. But don't compare yourself to anybody. Don't think that your projects have to be perfect out of the gate, because believe me, they really just don't. It's more about the doing and the getting started than it is about what the result is. And my niece has a bunch of my first pieces, and she shows them proudly in her new home. And, you know, my parents and my everybody has pieces somewhere. So TV magic, we have a magnifier now. Ha! That's going to be for the next step. Don't worry about that for now, but I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. We just have a few more beads to put in this little area, and then we're going to do the kind of the background. Now, here's a question for you. What does this piece remind you of? The fun thing about abstract art is that everybody sees something different. Some people see rainbows in this. It could be a comet. It could be a unicorn shooting something. Like, what do you see? And that's the fun part about art, is that people see different things. So we have that. Now we have our last color, and I'm going to do white. Even though I did white here, I'm going to use white again, and that's because I want the focus to be on the colors. I want you to look at all the beautiful colors in this and focus on that. So I am going to do a white on white for a different effect. And I didn't have a ton of choices on my colors for those little stars, the little flower thingies. So I just, again, used what I had. I want to use up these beads so we can go shopping for more. Okay, let's see. Go. So much easier. Now, using white beads is a challenge when you have a white background. So that's one reason I had them bring over the magnifier for us. And I'm going to turn this light on. If you have one of these guys, they're fabulous. I have one in my own studio. I use it all the time. But when you're trying to put beads down that are the same color as your background, sometimes it makes it really hard to see the same color on it. So I'm just going to utilize this magnifier a little bit so that I can see. My eyes are pretty good, but when it comes to distinguishing the color differential like this, it can be really hard sometimes to see. Then you can kind of get in here with your tweezers, move things around. Like that. And you see these little guys, the little accent pieces that I put down are sitting in place. They're not moving around. I gave them plenty of time to dry out. They're not completely dry, but they are dry enough that I'm not having to worry about them moving and going places. So this part of the bead tool that I told you about is a skinnier scoop, and that lets you get things into tighter areas, just like this. And what I tell people to do, say a little trick of the trade, if you have stuff that's spread out, kind of like in this area here, move all the beads to the little areas, the smaller areas with your fingers, and then leave the bigger areas for you to do the fill-in. That way you're not trying to pour beads into an area that is too tight. So, you know, put like this little area here, you're gonna kind of move everything into that little corner. And then that leaves this large area for you to dump a big hunk of beads. And then you're not fighting and poking and chasing and all of those wonderful things that happen. So there we go. Now, if you see any big gaps, you can fill them in at this point when you're looking with your magnifier. If you want, you're gonna end up with some gaps at the end after we pour the glue on anyway, and that's fine. That's when we're gonna do touch-up, and I'm gonna show you that stage in just a few minutes. So here we're just filling in, moving around. Again, if you want to use the magnifier to just make sure you have them at a single level. So I'm going to reiterate that comment that I said at the very beginning. One of the most important things that you can do is make sure that you only have a single layer of beads. If the beads are clumped on top of each other and piled on more than one layer of beads, when you pour the glue, they're gonna tend to clump together, and then you'll end up with big chunks of beads. So the single layer is important because of the way, now I do clumps of beads for other things for very specific purposes, and I do a different technique in order to accomplish that. But you want to make sure that yours are a single layer on any of these, especially the stained glass type of look, because it's going to be important later. So I'm going to move this out of the way so that I can see and you can see, and we're going to pat things down. And now we're ready for the final step. So we have all of our beads in place, right? This is what it's going to look like when it's done. It's beautiful. Thank you for putting this together with me. Now we get to get the glue. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a shake, open the top, and we're gonna start pouring it on. Now there are some tricks to this. One, you do not want to squirt. You want to let it drip, okay? So we're gonna let it drip. Give it a little bitty squirt if it needs a little bit of a hand. But you see how liquidy this glue is? And it sinks down. Now, one of the fun things about this, kind of fun but not fun, is that it reacts differently to the different types of beads. So if you notice when I poured it on these green opaque beads, see how it's kind of sitting on the top? But then when I put it on these beads, it sinks down. You're gonna need to give it time to react the way it needs to react to each of the type of beads. Now the magic of this is that because it's so thin, it will sink down as it dries, and it will only leave glue on the bottom. So this is going to dry completely clear. It will look just like it did a couple of minutes ago before I started pouring glue on it. If you have some air bubbles like this area right here, don't worry about it. If it bothers you, you can poke holes in them just because it's kind of fun. But the bubbles will go away. This will dry completely clear. You do not have to worry about it. Now, this glue is, the drying time is anywhere from a minimum of 24 hours up to 72 hours, depending on where you live. So those of you that are on the East Coast where you have a high humid environment, especially in the summer, it can take up to 3 days for this glue to be completely dry. I live in the desert. I love that. It takes me like less than 24 hours for this glue to dry, you know, depending on the time of year. But just to let you know, you also want to be careful when you're putting this on that you don't get the tip too close. A lot of people want to stick it right there. You want to be careful of that because you're going to end up pushing beads around with the tip of your glue bottle. So you're going to pour this on top. You're going to let it do its thing. Now you want to flood it, but not over flood it. And I'll show you what that means in a minute as it starts to sink down. So what I mean by that is, let's pan in on this little green section right here. So this section, you can still see the beads, right? When you're looking right here, they're flooded. See how the glue is in every nook and cranny? But you can still see the tops of the beads. That's the exact right amount that you want to go for. So the one next to it has a little bit more glue in it. That's fine. This one does too, but you know what? That's gonna change. When you see me poking around like this, see how it's moving into place? It will take time. It will seep down, it will move itself into the nooks and crannies, and it will get where it needs to go. You still should have about a half a bottle of the glue left, and I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do with that half a bottle when we're done. Now, if you want to put your dragonfly on, remember I found this beautiful little dragonfly? I can put this on now or I can put it on later. I think I'm gonna do this now. And I just kind of like the idea of the randomness of this. It's gonna give it a little bit of personality, a little something. And I'm thinking that it should go right around here. So I'm gonna lay that down. I'm gonna leave it there. It is going to dry with the rest of the set. Now I can put a little extra glue on that just to make sure that that baby doesn't go anywhere tomorrow. But that's pretty much it. Now try not to put glue on the outside edges. Now you can get it on the inside. So for instance here, where it's overlapping the black lines, that's perfectly fine. It will dry perfectly clear, so don't worry about the black lines. But you want to avoid getting it on the outside black edges simply because it creates a trail for the glue to fall out if you do that. And you don't want to give it a trail to fall out of. So be careful with that. You also want to make sure that you put this on a level surface. And this is going to need to sit for at least 24 hours, if not more. And see, there's a little air bubble there. I'm just gonna pop that, boom, all done. And then the next day when you come back, we're gonna put this aside over here so that it has a chance to dry, and make sure it's somewhere where nobody can bump it or move it, because at least for the next 24 hours, even if you have to wait 3 days, it's still gonna be kind of loose. The next day, you're gonna come back and you're gonna have, it's gonna be kind of like this. Now, when you look at this, when you look closely, you're gonna see this area right here has some gaps in it. That's because I missed some glue. Most of the other areas are pretty well covered. I will find, when I get the magnifier over here, a few spots that are missing 1 or 2 beads. Now, the reason, and I created this a while ago, this is from one of our standard kits, but this, if you keep your single level of beads, like I told you before, then there's not a lot of movement and you won't have a lot of gaps. Again, if you put clumps of beads together, they will tend to gather together and clump together. So I'm gonna use the magnifier, and I'm gonna use the touch-up tray that you got with your kit. So I poured the colors that I needed in the touch-up tray. They're right here, ready for me to use. And then I'm not gonna use the glue again until I'm done. But what I'm gonna do is use my magnifier, and I'm going to grab some of these beads that I need to fill in the hole here. And I kind of use the rule of half. If the hole is half the size of a full bead, then stick a bead in it. If it's less than half the size of a bead, don't worry about it. Nobody's gonna notice the hole there. You know, this is again, we're enhancing the personality of the bead. We're not trying to make them all little soldiers. in there. So you're gonna fill this. Now you can either put glue down and fill it, which I don't recommend because you tend to lose your place. At least I do. I lose my place all the time. Like, where did I put that glue in? Is it supposed to be white or white beads or white glue? So I like to do this technique where I am putting the beads in their place, and then we're going to put another layer of glue all over the top of it. So I'm looking around to see, and I have my little stash of beads here with all my colors. I'm going to place them in wherever they need to be. And did you see that little guy peeing over there? So if you squeeze your tweezers too hard, the beads like to travel. I think they're trying to escape. I don't know. So yeah, see, there they go. We're gonna pick these guys up, put them in place. Again, you're not trying to fill every hole. You're just trying to fill the biggest ones. So we're gonna put these in place. And this is usually a 10 to 20 minute process. You know, take your time with this. You don't have to rush through this. And this is your your second to last step. You have one more step. If you do find that there are some that are clumped on top of each other, like this little guy is kind of high, then I usually just pick them off with the bead and move them over somewhere else because they obviously need to be somewhere else. So I don't have a lot of gaps in this project, and that's because, yes, I have a lot of experience doing this single layer technique, and I know that that's a big time saver for me, so I tend to do pretty well with that. Just, again, a lot of practice with it. But yeah, just find your little gaps if you have any. There aren't too many in this one, other than that big blatant hole that I forgot to pour glue in. And it happens. Don't worry about it. You know, it's just glue. You're going to have plenty of it. And if you need more, we do sell pre-made skinny glue. On the beadmosaic.com website. We sell it in 16 and 32 ounce, so you can refill your squeeze bottle with the glue and always have it available. And it doesn't really go bad either. Another great thing about the glue is that it's completely non-toxic. There are no fumes. So don't worry about, like, some of these glues can really, like, affect your breathing and things like that. Don't worry about that with my glue. It cleans with water, so if you spill it, just get a paper towel and wipe it off. A wet paper towel is not a problem. And again, you don't have to be like in a well-ventilated area because it is completely non-toxic. I don't recommend eating it, but if you did swallow a little bit, you're not gonna die or anything. You should be fine. Don't test me on that though. So the second thing we're going to do is we're gonna use most of the rest of this glue to put another layer of glue on it. And that's gonna do two things. It's going to glue the pieces that you just put in there, but it's also going to add that extra layer of protection to this. And then you're going to, again, let it dry and then it'll be done. And if you want, and this is only if you want, it's not completely necessary. If you want to protect it, like if you're going to put it in a bathroom or someplace where you're going to have moisture or something like that, you might want to seal it with an acrylic glaze. And they sell spray sealers, acrylic glaze sealers. Rust-Oleum makes a great product. It's called triple thick glaze, and it's a spray sealer. You can spray that over the top of it, and it will seal it and also make it more shiny. But this really, you don't need it. This is going to be a little bit more resistant to the glue because it already has glue in it. So it's going to take a little bit of extra time for that glue to kind of seep down. But you can see that the glue will travel if you need it to. This surface isn't perfectly level, so it kind of wants to travel. But if you have extra glue left over, that's no problem. Use it for your next project. And then you're pretty much done. These kits come with the frame. So when it's completely done, you can put it in the frame, hang it on your wall. It makes a beautiful gift to give to other people, and the fun part is you get to make it and then you get to give it away. Or you can give the kit away as well. And we do have other kits that are pre-made that come with the beads. This one is designed for you to be creative for yourself and to be able to use your own beads and your own ideas. And when you're done, I would love it if you would share it on the Bead Mosaic Facebook group, because the group loves to see new ideas and they love to see what people are doing out there. So I encourage you to bead brave, okay? Don't just be brave, but bead brave. Get all your beads out and see what you have and see what beautiful things you can make with it. You don't have to go big, you can go small. You'll see the trees that I have back there. We have smaller kits available in learning different techniques. And again, the YouTube channel is always available to show you different techniques and little tips and tricks that that will help you personalize your project as well. Thank you for joining me. I want to thank Jewel School and Jewelry Television for having me and having my mosaics and jewelry for your walls here for you to learn about. And you can always find my original artworks on SabrinaFreyArt.com. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram as well at that same address. And you can also find me on the beadmosaic.com website. There you're going to find resources, tutorials, reference sheets, all the things that you need to be able to create your own bead mosaics, as well as the supplies and the know-how. So I encourage you to take a look at our website. Also join our Facebook group. We have over 20,000, I think there's 23,000 people on there now, just learning how to do this and sharing ideas with each other and techniques together. So take a look at that, join us, and again, thank you so much for joining me here, and I hope you bead brave and get started. Have a good day. Thank you.